Okay.
Here we go.
Today, I was up before the dawn, and I really have enjoyed my stay, but I must be moving on.
Hey, that was Goodbye Stranger, Supertramp from the 70s album Breakfast in America. This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of New York's world-famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on the Ridecast Podcast Network. I'm Dan Naturman. We have Dov Davidoff and Periel Aschenbrand. This is a bonus episode, and we will have more classic rock after our discussion of the week's events. Dov, welcome. You're coming to us from a location that is not familiar to me.
I'm always happy to be back on Classic Rock 9208. I just moved into this joint 15 minutes ago. I mean, literally 15 minutes ago. Here, my bike's over here. Check this out. This is I'm in Nolita. I was able to get this Airbnb. I mean, I'm here for 4 months. But look at it.
I'm so jealous.
Dov is in, for those of you who are listening on just on audio on podcast, Dov is in Nolita. He's got a beautiful view. It's nighttime, so we see the twinkling lights of Nolita.
The divorce is going well, and so I had my kid on the scooter earlier today, and then just moved into this Airbnb. I'll see if I can make it permanent. But this is, I mean, what's going on in the city right now? It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's a very good deal for whatever that's worth. Not that people at home care, but it's.
I care.
Yeah, no, it's like it was a place that would have been $4K a month, and I got it for 24. Furnished and everything. It's like to be around the corner from Nolita. Yeah, it's really nice.
We will get back to that. I do want to talk about Saturday night. Apparently, Periel has beef with Dan Naturman.
Okay, all right. Won't be the first, won't be the last.
Not likely, no. Because she said she was mad at me because I opened for Louis C.K. on Saturday, and apparently in Jersey at the Stress Factory, the world-famous Stress Factory. And apparently Periel is upset that I didn't tell you. Is that it, Periel?
Yes, I've asked you so many times to let me know when and where you're performing, and you're out gallivanting, and I'm stuck out here outside of the fucking city.
Yeah.
Ready to bash my head into a wall, and I would have totally come to that.
Well,
You've been so COVID safe. Would you really want to go into an environment where the liability is clearly much higher than what you've been, creating?
I mean, I feel like I would probably be in, I wouldn't be planning on diving headfirst into the crowd, right?
Right.
They had a tent set up. Have you been to the Stress Factory, Dov, since?
No, not since. No.
There's a tent set up, because Vinny has a lot of property outside the club, so they could set up a tent with heat lamps. I don't know to what extent the tent is any safer. I assume it's somewhat safer. There's greater airflow, but I don't know how much safer it would be than just having it inside the club.
Is it the same? Is it the same configuration, Dan, at 50% capacity or 25%?
No, it looks like when you look at it, it looks like it's full capacity. I mean, but it's in a tent. It's outside. It looks like when we go to a restaurant outside, that level of social distancing.
I see.
So zero social distancing.
Well, so less than I think 6 feet. I think. I mean, I didn't take a tape measure to it, but. No one wants to come into the podcast, by the way. No, I just got a message from Noam.
Oh, look who's here. Look at that.
It's a surprise. He has obviously something to get off his chest, something of great urgency, unless he's just that bored.
The fuck, you sent me an invite and then nobody lets me in?
Hello. Look who has joined us.
What, did we invite Noam to this?
I invite him to every single one.
I'll leave.
No, you don't need to leave. I was talking about opening for Louis this weekend, and before we get into the weeds politically with Noam, because that's always what happens. I want to relate a story that I think would be of some interest.
Go ahead.
Let me know. So I'm going to meet Louis downtown. He's picking me up to drive me and Joe List out to the gig. And I take a city bike, an electric city bike. And if you know me, you know I love electric city bikes.
Can't get enough of this stuff. Dan loves
Can't get
city
enough.
bikes.
When you go down to the village, though, sometimes it turned out there were you have to park it in like a special, those city bike parking things.
Yes.
And I couldn't find one.
Ooh.
And I'm riding around, and I getting a call from Louis' road manager, Leah. Where are you? Louis waiting. Can't wait much longer. I'm riding around trying to find a parking space. I make an executive decision. I simply leave the electric city bike unparked next to the rack. There's like a whole series of parking spaces, and next to it, I leave it on. I say, I got to make an executive decision here because there's no friggin' parking for this city bike, and I don't want to miss the Louis gig. And the city bike, if somebody steals it, be a couple grand, which is more than I'm making for Louis, but I want to work with Louis.
By the way, Dan, as a side note, there's an app that will let you know where they have open ports.
I know, and there was nothing in the
I
village.
see.
I call up City Bike. I'm like, hey, could you get somebody down here? I gotta work with Louis.
Yeah, of course, baby. Of
They
course.
said, look, we don't give a fuck about you or Louis. So I make that executive decision, hoping that nobody will steal it, hoping that somebody will just take it and get an electric city bike on me, and then just go park it where they're going.
Right.
You did the right thing, Dan. You did the right thing.
What happened an hour later, I checked the app and somebody had taken it and parked it somewhere else. So
You have good karma.
I didn't have to pay the $2,000, whatever the fee is when a city bike gets stolen, but I think I made the right decision. I didn't want to upset Louis or cancel on him last minute.
Oh my God, that would have been a terrible idea.
No, you clearly made the right decision. Worst case scenario, you'd be out of pocket $2,500. Best case scenario was what happened to you, but I'm sorry. Worst case scenario is Louis would feel like you fucked him over, and you'd save $2,500, which will come back to you in the future. You made the right decision.
Yeah, and I also was just anxious to do a real gig because
Yes.
I haven't really done. I mean, I've done shows in the park. I've done shows elsewhere at the stand outside, which are pretty good. Pardon?
How was it?
Oh, it was good. It was good. They seem to like me in Jersey. These Jersey people.
Everybody likes you.
Well, they're not just Jersey people. They're Louis Jersey people.
They're Louis Jersey people, so that they're a little bit more. I don't know, a little bit more comedy savvy, perhaps, maybe than.
Yeah, Jim Norton's Jersey people may not have been quite as kind, if you will.
I
But it's
can't
warm.
believe that you didn't tell me you were doing this. I really fucking can't.
It never dawned on me to tell you because it's all the way in Jersey. I just didn't think you'd make that kind of a trip.
Right.
And likely you would not have, by the way.
She
I have
can.
been locked up in a fucking house for 7 months.
You cannot. If you want to go on that trip, then your kid doesn't play with my kid anymore.
No,
Bottom
it's very.
line.
Weren't you in the city the other day at some dinner meeting, God knows where?
I'm not going to some. I met with people who are quarantined. I'm not going to some strangers, especially Louis' crowd.
What do you
No,
mean?
by
What do
the
you
way,
mean?
You did a great job. You did a great job building out those plexiglass partitions at the Olive Tree. It looks great and it works really well. I mean, I was there. I did stand up there earlier in the week. It was or last week. It was good.
Right.
Are we talking about that, Noam, openly?
No.
Okay.
Wait, I mean, wait.
I
Go ahead.
stood up in a room. Nobody's breaking any. There's no regulations being broken. There's less than
Nobody's
25%.
quite sure. You're allowed to have a piano player. We're not having any shows, but if somebody gets up and starts talking to the people, what am I going to do? Like tell them
There's
not
no
allowed to?
official show. I was in the middle of playing piano, and then I started to talk.
Now there's no official show. We're not even charging the extra COVID 10%, let alone charging admission. So, but I mean,
So Dan was in a tent. I mean,
Yeah, I was in a tent. I was saying before you got here, Noam, I was in a tent where it's not, when I say a tent, it's like a major deal. It's like a tent you would have for like a wedding or, then there's sides to it. It's like, there's walls to this tent.
right.
And it's high ceilings. There was a lighting apparatus. that Vinny had in. I got to hand it to Vinny. I'll tell you, you cannot kill this guy. I mean, come COVID, come hail, come plague, he will have his show. And he did a beautiful job setting this big tent up and with the heat lamps. And there are openings on the side, so there's airflow. But I'm just wondering to what extent it's safer than just being inside. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I'm just wondering. But in any case, it's legal to do it that way, so he's doing it.
So you're not near anyone. I mean, it's really riskier for the audience members.
Yeah, I'm on stage, and everybody has their me, Joe List, which were the openers, and Louis. We all had our own microphones, and we were away from the stage. So for us, it's no big deal. The audience, I don't know. They had to wear their masks whenever they left their table. And Vinny did a good job of patrolling and of that and enforcing that. So, and he's been doing shows all along, and things are. I think
anything to keep Vinny off doing 20 minutes on that payphone indoors on his wall. I mean, I'd be happy to work outdoors all year long rather than sit through that payphone act. But anyway.
I don't know if he's doing the payphone anymore or not.
Did you guys hear what happened to Jeffrey Toobin?
Yes, we did. But if you want to just briefly discuss it, to give the broad strokes, give the broad strokes, if you will. That was an unintentional play on words, but the broad strokes.
Jeffrey Toobin got caught doing something all the rest of us had never got caught doing. He got caught. He got caught masturbating during a Zoom call, a professional Zoom call. This is, first of all, this is the thing. This guy's, he's at least in his 50s, right?
Yeah, so his technological prowess may not be what it should be.
No, that's quite an overpowering libido for a man that age. He's got to jerk off during a Zoom call I haven't done stuff like that since I was a teenager. Like I could keep it together for a Zoom call.
I don't think I could get an erection just on a general meeting type call. I mean, it wasn't in the context of some, sexy talk. It was an actual.
No, I think it was just it was the New Yorker. I don't know.
So funny. Now, of course, this is what Louis was accused of doing, right? One of the big things. The girl was talking to him, and she figured out that he was masturbating. This is serious. Let's remember, they said this was serious.
No. But Toobin said that he thought he was off. He thought he had blocked
privacy.
The video.
Yeah, but Louis. But one of the things with Louis was that he didn't tell her she was masturbating. She caught him masturbating.
You
remember?
Over the phone?
Over the phone, yeah.
No, but Toobin thought he had exited the meeting, I think, or that he had.
Oh no! How could you think you exited the meeting?
Well, you could stop the video. If you stop the video and nobody can see it and nobody can hear you.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah, he said that he had thought he had stopped the video.
Why did he get fired for that?
Did he say it was hacked?
Investigation.
These people bullshit. I mean,
Who cares? So he got fired because he was jerking off?
He got suspended.
During a professional meeting, he was caught masturbating during the. It was unclear if anything. Was it Toobin, who has since been suspended, later told Vice, "I believed it was not visible on Zoom. I thought no one on the Zoom call could see me. I thought I had muted the Zoom video. It was unclear, but he hadn't muted the audio. It was unclear what, if anything, others." It's so funny to me. Can you imagine?
I can't believe. I mean, first of all, I actually can't believe that he only got suspended. So they're going to let him come back. And
I think
they're investigating. They were doing some sort of simulation.
Investigating what?
Whether he thought he was mute. I take him at his word that it was a mistake. I can't believe he would do that on purpose.
I wonder if he
gets some people off. But did he? So he thought that the Zoom call had come to an end.
He thought he had stopped the video. I'll do it right now as a demonstration. Stop video. You see, there I am. I could masturbate right now. You'd have no idea. Depending on what moaning I was doing, if any. And now the video starts back, and here I am in my fish tank.
I demand to know whether or not you were masturbating.
And I did manage to get one out in a brief period of time.
Right. Knocked one out so fast, so quick.
Because I'm that good.
Is that good? He's that good. Since the first time he stopped a video Zoom and jerked off inside of 15 seconds. Did he? But I don't understand. So Toobin shut the video off and then began jerking off without any material, no pornography.
I really don't know the details. We'll have
Well,
to.
I'd like to know because that would be an impressive feat in and of itself. Just an imagination masturbation.
Well, maybe.
Okay, here's the story. The New Yorker was suspended for masturbating on a Zoom chat between members of the New Yorker and WNYC Radio. Toobin says he didn't realize his video was on. I believe that was two people who were on the call told Vice separately that the call was an election simulation featuring many of New Yorker's biggest stars. Jane Mayer was playing a Republican, even Joe Biden, and he was playing the part of somebody, and he just, I guess the thought of Biden winning, it just.
he was jerking off during an election simulation.
Both said, this is Vice. Now, Vice is using very journalistic. Both said they saw Toobin jerking off, according to Vice. That's the language they use.
Incredible. That is just incredible.
Oh my God. It says at this point they said it seemed like Toobin was on a second video call. The sources said that when the group returned from their breakout rooms, Toobin lowered the camera. The people on the call said they could see Toobin touching his penis. Toobin then left the call. Moments later, he called back in, seemingly unaware of what his colleagues had been able to see. Did he ejaculate? I mean,
well, we don't know. I don't know.
Is there a money shot somewhere?
Well, again, I say that I think that I don't see what motivation he would have had to do that on purpose. So I'll take him at his word that he's just an older guy, albeit not much older than me, that doesn't know how to use technology and fucked up.
Well, yeah, but it's also just an interesting time to immediately begin masturbating.
Actually, I'm sorry. He's 60. He's quite a bit older than me, in fact.
Wow.
I thought he was in his 50s. He's 60 years old. So, he could be a 60-year-old being a little bit clumsy with technology, I suppose. Not everybody's.
Nothing clumsy about the way he pulled out his pole and began hammering away.
Oh, he's got the libido of a teenager, but the technological wherewithal of an 80-year-old.
Yes.
Outrageous. That's
Wow,
just
that's
fucking outrageous. I mean, honestly, you would never find a woman doing this. I mean, it would just never fucking happen.
No.
A trans woman might. Oh no, Periel. No, I forgot. You're not. Periel would disagree. She thinks a trans woman has all the qualities of a woman. Isn't that what you told me?
Yes.
So a trans woman wouldn't take it out and beat her meat, right?
First of all, that's totally offensive and disgusting.
Why is that offensive? Honestly.
Because not all trans women have penises.
I'm talking about the ones that do, obviously.
The ones that do.
And second of
all,
all,
why was it offensive?
It's just vulgar. If I said something,
we're talking about masturbating on TV here. What's vulgar?
That's fine. That part, I just feel like, who cares? I mean, first, I can't wrap my head around the fact that this guy is jerking off during, like,
right.
What is he
doing?
doing?
But we are onto something here. We are onto something, which is that a difference between trans women and regular women? Sorry, that's offensive. Trans women and XY
cis women,
cis women born whatever. I can't. I'm like Jeffrey too.
I'm not convinced that a woman would never do such a thing. Women.
I take back the regular women. I don't mean to talk that way. I didn't mean it that way. But is that a difference between trans women and what we used to call women? I don't know.
Do we know that trans women? First of all, what exactly are we saying? Women masturbate as well. So why would a woman?
But Periel seems to think that the penis.
I'm saying in a professional setting, I think you're hard pressed to find a woman who's going to start fingering herself in the middle.
Easy, my son is here.
Well, he said it to me.
Go upstairs. Go upstairs right now.
Is that Nicholas?
You want to tell me something? Come here.
All right, here we are. Now we're going to hear from Manny Dworman.
Come here, quick.
I'm telling my dad something.
Go ahead. What do you want to tell me? Quick.
Okay, but I'm here, so I
While
might.
I'm making a Halloween school, I need someone to join the Halloween school.
Okay, why not come upstairs? Can you go upstairs now, please? Go. Okay, good.
It's a sweet kid. I love that kid. Manny
Come
Dworman.
here. He just came running in here and he goes, Manny.
Oh, now we have Periel's kid too.
He says what?
He said, Manny.
Hello, Periel's son. Oh, he's adorable, this kid. I never saw him before. Now Periel's running after him. He's got hair like he's got long curly hair. He's like he's lead singer for Blue Oyster Cult.
Anyway, so what else is new? I listen. The reason it's awkward because Periel said some trans stuff last week or on another podcast. I don't remember, and she, and I think she just contradicted herself. That's all. But go ahead.
I didn't. And I'm saying that I think you would be hard pressed to find a woman, trans or otherwise, who would be fingering herself or otherwise masturbating in the middle of a business meeting.
Why would you assume women could finger themselves?
What do you
You
mean?
assume
What?
Why would I'm making fun of you. I'm saying that there are differences between male libido and female libido, right? And those differences are probably not gender identification differences. Those are probably sexual genetics differences.
It's biochemical. There's no arguing that we have different chemistry, and whether or not you're taking a lot of estrogen, you still have a degree of testosterone pumping through your body, which manifests itself in ways that are could be seen as more aggressive. And
why don't we just get our facts straight with regard to the frequency of masturbation? Masturbation frequently was higher among males than, this is from the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, I guess it's called. When asked about masturbation frequency in the past year, approximately half of male participants reported masturbation at least twice weekly. Among females, 45.5% reported masturbation a few times per year, but only 22.5% reported masturbation frequencies of at least twice a week. So I guess there is quite a difference, at least according to the Journal of Medical Association. Now, Periel's research might show otherwise.
I find that. What year is that from? I mean, I'll say this. First of all, women were,
Number 2011, so I don't think much has changed since then.
Well, I think that female masturbation is something that was not really talked about in any way like male masturbation is talked about. It's sort of like this accepted thing that guys jerk off, but it was, sort of, oh my God, if women talk about that, it's scandalous.
Now listen, if Jeffrey Toobin were masturbating during this conversation, I'd give him a pass. If Dan's masturbating right now while you're talking about female masturbation, he's only human. All right. But the fact is that every girl complains, every woman complains about seeing a dude masturbating on the subway, right? I've never heard of a woman masturbating on the subway.
But that's a different thing. Women are less likely to be perhaps exhibitionists. It doesn't mean they're less likely to masturbate, although according to this JAMA, by the way, this JAMA article focuses on adolescents.
I mean,
so not across the line. For 14 to 17-year-olds were in that study.
I have half the libido I had 15 years ago.
That's still plenty, Dov. I remember you 15 years ago.
Damn right, baby.
That's like Bill Gates saying he's half the money he had 20 years ago.
Yeah, he can still get by. Oh, I'm not complaining. It's a relief. It's a relief.
No, I have less than half.
A hard time controlling themselves.
Here's another statistic from Women's Health magazine. 5% of women ages 25 to 29 engage in masturbation more than 4 times a week. That's 5% of women in that age group. 20% of men in that age group do. The gap closes in for multiple times a month, with 21.5% of women and 25.4% of men. In any case, the disparity remains throughout life with women. Anyway, so men do masturbate more, but it's not that women don't masturbate, and certainly it could happen that a woman masturbates.
I clocked a good 1.5 per day until I was 35, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Exit, and then with that he left.
Well, Periel, you're a very sexual woman, and there's no secret, and everybody knows it. I don't think
Is that true?
it's nothing to be ashamed of. So
I mean, I don't know that that's true anymore.
I think it is true.
Since I've gotten married, things change.
Well, all right, you were. So what was how often did you engage in?
I don't want to hear this. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about
You're the one who just told us your schedule when you were 35.
I have to listen to yours. All I can say is this: I don't know one girl who doesn't masturbate regularly, and I think those numbers are off.
That could be, but the source course, that contradicts with your point about no woman would ever
No,
accidentally.
just self-control and just like a sense of fucking decorum.
Yes, but if he didn't know that he was being, on the Zoom meeting, then then it has nothing to do with decorum.
But wasn't he
Anyway,
talking?
Can we talk about something else?
all right. No one wants to talk
You
about.
brought this
other
up.
things, although no
Listen,
one
Talk
did
about
bring it
Jeffrey
up.
Toobin, not you.
No, but what's going on with the Amy Coney Barrett hearings? Are they ready to vote? I stopped paying attention.
I didn't even watch them. I don't even care anymore.
So,
No, you didn't see any of her. I thought that her demeanor, her calmness. I'm not talking about what are how conservative or any of her perceived political positions. She was so articulate and so sort of. There was this kind of empowered aspect to the way she would answer the questions with no notes. She really seemed like a brilliant, hyper-articulate woman for what that's worth. And the fact that she's got 2 Haitian children is meaningful as well. I mean, if you want to talk about extolling the virtues of, look, but I don't know much about her politics. And I don't know how real the liability is associated with Roe v. Wade and all of that. So I'm not commenting on that.
I mean, she's apparently a super genius, and she's conservative. She's a religion, and she's adopted some Haitian kids in need, and she seems, by all accounts, deserves to be on the Supreme Court. The question is whether or not Trump should have not appointed somebody so close to the election after what they did to Merrick Garland. I don't think it was terrific what they did, but they didn't break any rules. I mean, I didn't like what they did. I don't like what they did. I thought what they did with Merrick Garland was shitty. I mean, this is not the first time a Supreme Court justice will have been nominated or appointed in an election year.
what about Hunter's emails, Noam? Have you been following that story closely?
Yes, I have been following that one. I like those stories.
Well, so can you enlighten us with the Cliff's Notes version of exactly what the hell's going on?
Well, they found there's this weird hard drive on a laptop that was supposedly dropped off at a was it Delaware computer shop, and he never picked it up. And there's all these emails on there, and some of them discuss keeping 10% aside in a deal for China for Joe Biden, and another one discusses thanking Hunter for the opportunity to meet the vice president or his father during the time. It's all interesting because some of this goes directly to the stuff that Trump was impeached over. Like, if these emails are true, it becomes very hard to justify impeaching Trump, in my opinion.
Regardless of the technical aspect of the email, investigation and discovery, isn't there part of the problem is that he received a significant amount of money by way of a financial group in another country with political interest. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he had no experience in energy production and or private equity situations that would.
And he was a crack addict. Yes, you're right.
Right. And so the notion, if you know anything about business, you just don't give away millions of dollars to anybody without either significant experience or you're paying for some aspect of their connected situation politically. I mean, it's absurd to argue that you would have gotten that if he weren't your father. Now, whether or not something is legal, that's a different situation.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Dov. So, it's just interesting to see the Times and CNN. They won't even talk about this stuff, and except that they want to focus on the fact that there was a guy at the Post who didn't want to run the story, and Fox News refused to run the story because they didn't feel it was properly verified. But of course, that was then. Now the story's out, and there has not been a single denial from anybody. Not one person has said that's not my email. And it's been 4 or 5 days already. And also, some people have said, actually, yeah, that is my email. So it's becoming harder and harder to believe that these are not legit, except unless that's your religion to believe that. But what's fascinating is that you think, what does the New York Times actually in business for? Wouldn't it be to track down whether these emails are true or not, whether this corruption actually happened, and inform the American public in time for an election? Isn't that kind of like job one of the New York Times, more so than 1619 projects and stuff like that, which are nice, but that's not the primary, what's the word? The primary mission of the greatest newspaper. The greatest newspaper is to inform us about our most important civic facts. Like, was the vice president corrupt? We're about to elect him as president. Now, I mean, whatever. I don't think it's a reason not to vote for Biden, but Dov, you hit the nail on the head, because I was saying this all along at the time, is that every deal, every transaction is considered to be an even exchange. That's like a basic principle of transactions. So if Burisma pays Hunter Biden $50,000 to $80,000 a month, you presume.
There's also other upside, and then there's a fund, like a private equity fund. Essentially, it's a 2 and 20 deal. I get you give me $250 million, and I get a small percentage of that in order to manage the money.
Well, whatever it is, but let's just say if they're paying him $50,000 to $80,000 a month for a job he has no expertise in, it's natural to say, well, they're paying him for something, and we know that's something.
He had no experience. He had a successful track record as an equity guy in the first place.
Right.
On no level would that happen in the real world if you.
To what extent does that implicate Joe Biden?
Well, it does. So this is the thing. So it's clear it's clear that they were buying something from him, and he was clear that by taking the money, he was indicating to them that he was selling something, and that is most likely his connections to his dad. So now the dad is the vice president. Now the dad finds out about this. Apparently, he played golf with the guys in Burisma, and according to these emails, which may or may not be true, he met with one of these people. Now that is not the right thing for the dad to do. I'm not saying he did anything corrupt, compromise American foreign policy. I have no idea. But if I was Joe Biden, I would tell Hunter, listen, do whatever the fuck you want, but you're not doing any deals in Ukraine right now that I'm in charge of Ukraine. And if you don't pull out of that deal, then I'm going to have to make very clear to them that that I'm out of this. Don't think that I'm involved in this in any way. The last thing I would do if I were Joe Biden was go play golf with them. And we also know that 2 people within the Obama administration raised this issue to Joe Biden, and one of them was told, "Shut up and don't mention it again." So I mean, and it's just shocking. Imagine if this were Trump and Trump Jr. Can you picture the New York Times saying, we're not going to report on this? I mean, it's crazy what's going on.
It's not about, it just goes to highlight the hypocritical nature of both sides, and also highlight, media bias. And so when I hear him yelling fake news, I mean, look, Fox is as editorialized, as they are on the left, but I don't know where you turn in this country at this point for an independent, objective perspective about information. I don't know where to go.
You turn to America's source for objective assessment, which is Live from the Table.
Live from the Table, baby.
And classic rock as well. So
I think that it's a legit story. I think the emails, why wouldn't somebody deny them if they're fake? Like Biden's answer was, it's not on his official schedule. Like, that's such a imagine your wife catches you finds some emails that you're fucking around, and you say, no, honey, I checked my schedule. It's like you would say, I didn't fuck around.
Regardless of all of the details, there's a common sense observation to be made here. No one gets paid $100,000 a month without bringing significant experience or value to the table. And in the absence of those two, then you can rely on the notion that there was some sort of connection, family, political related. You don't pay people millions of dollars otherwise, regardless of who you are. It's not how reality works.
And there's more, and you can also count on it that at some point, somebody from Burisma said to Hunter, we need you to ask your dad about blah, 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 blah. He had to. They've been paying him all his money. So the question then becomes, when he did that, what did Hunter do? And now if there's an email that says he set up a meeting, that's actually real corruption. You know, I mean, it may not be out of the ordinary in terms of what politicians do, but that's the real thing. And to think that Trump got impeached because he had the nerve to say, "I want you to look into this," it becomes it becomes a very murky picture there, because a president does have the right to look into such things, even if it's opportunistic and political, and you know, he's still the president. If he gets wind of this, he has a right to look into it.
And isn't the most worrisome aspect of all of this is that it's not about the level of impropriety. I think the impropriety is clear, just on a common sense sort of reasoning basis. Isn't the liability that we don't have a media outlet to turn to within which we can rely on something remotely objective, in that everything is so hyper politicized. I mean, on both the left and the right, the hypocrisy doesn't frighten me. It's that where do people turn for fucking information?
I'd say the best right now is the Wall Street Journal. That's really what I think. They play it the straightest.
I agree.
Even the Wall Street Journal news page can be a little left of center sometimes, but no, I think they do a really good job with the Wall Street Journal.
I agree.
The editorial page is tilts pretty right, but I'm not talking about the editorial page. It's just the news.
Noam, I think we should consider negotiating a retail lease at this point in anticipation of a vaccine. I think we get a dynamite deal. I pay for the whole operation. We determine an equity split. I'm working on loan sales right now. 3 deals. There's debt going to market that's going to be foreclosed on. Wait a second. No, I'm jerking off. He thought he was off the computer.
Go ahead, Dov. Go ahead.
Dov, are you talking about opening up another comedy cellar, or just some other general investment?
Comedy cellar. I'm already working on other investment. I don't think development is the deal right now, but there are some very interesting situations in New York City, provided that you believe NYC isn't going out of business, and I believe that it is not.
Well, that's interesting, because Noam was, before the pandemic, Noam was investigating opening up another room, and then he didn't do it, and then the pandemic happened, and Noam...
No, I pulled out because of the pandemic.
You pulled out because of the pandemic.
Look, you don't want to be paying rent for paying a lease for 12 to 15 months at 25% capacity. That math is clear. But what is less clear is, one, where you put the over-under on the vaccine, and then how you weigh the variable that is very significant historic leverage as a buyer of lease, as a retail buyer in this sense, in that the seller is under very serious pressure in many cases to make a deal with a prospective tenant. Now, you can do a sharing agreement on a lease, or you could just determine a rock bottom number on a per foot basis, get a 10-year lease with 5-year options. The negotiating leverage is very clear right now. I don't know what's available, but the idea that I would go in and pay for it, I don't know what the equity split would be. It's your club, you run it. I front the dough, and we go out and make a deal. I can't control Biden, but I can control what goes on in terms of a lease situation with a seller who's underwater on a mortgage and has a tenant that already burnt out. Anyway, you get the point.
Well, yeah. An interesting offer. I don't know that Noam wants to be in business with Dov, only because friendship and business can be a very complex mix.
Yes, but if it's clean and you're relatively experienced, there's the idea that, look, you put up X amount of money. If you lose that money, you're a big boy. And I wouldn't have any part in running anything. There would be no conflict of interest in that sense. And nobody spends $250,000 for stage time. I'm not looking for an extra spot on a Wednesday. But I thought, now's an interesting time to begin thinking about.
Well, let me tell you where you are going wrong, Mr. Davidoff, in my opinion.
No, I'm not pitching anything yet. I'm just saying as a consideration.
This is the difference between what you're discussing and where I think you'd be right in terms of buying property now. Right. The savings that you can get on the rent right now, right, I do not think are worth the risk of the uncertainty of what you're getting yourself into. What I'm saying is that better to pay a little bit more rent at a time when New York has actually bounced back than to try to then get yourself in now when it's uncertain. Yeah, maybe you're going to save, $5,000, $7,000 a month. But that kind of money doesn't really matter that much if your business is successful. But if you're not making any money to sign on a dotted line and start paying, you could lose a lot. So that's what
I completely understand your CBA. I'm not pitching this from a
my
point.
what?
Your cost benefit
Oh,
analysis.
CBA, yeah.
Saying that the cost would be higher than the benefit, until we know what's going on. You'd rather pay another $5,000-$7,000.
It's also a question of how you assess the risk. If Noam is saying that there's still a great risk that
I will make a caveat. There are certain locations. I can't think of one on the top of my head, but certain locations that come up they become available so seldom and are so special that it would be worth grabbing them if they came up. In other words, not a run-of-the-mill store on some street, but like a really classic location. If that comes up, that would be different.
I understand, and I've done no research as it relates to where the leverage is, where the lease rates are, and none of us know when things are going to open back up in a meaningful way. I just didn't know whether there was a scenario where you could create language in a contract saying, as long as we're at 25% capacity, if you could pitch the idea that you pay 25% of wherever the lease would have been, you cap the liability on the upside. I don't know. It was just
you can pitch that. Sure you can.
Yeah, it was just a thought.
Yeah, that's
also,
not a bad
there's
idea.
another issue is that I don't know how motivated Noam is to make money at this point. I think he's I don't know. Noam can answer that question.
I'm not motivated to make money. I'm barely motivated to get out of bed. I don't know. I'm not even motivated to masturbate. I'm not motivated to make money. I do hope that my old income comes back. I'd be quite happy with that. But that's a mood thing. That could change. I was ready to open a new club in January, early this year. So I was kind of psyched to do that. Thank God I backed out. They thought I was nuts. These landlords, when I backed out, I said, I'm not backing out till I know where this COVID thing goes. And this was in January when everybody thought it was going to be fine.
Yeah.
He says, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And he was mad. But thank God I backed out.
No,
Smart Jew.
Yeah, Yiddish cup. God bless.
Yiddish cup. Anyway, what else?
Loan sales, you understand? I'm going to buy the face value of this note. I'm going to bid on it. I'm going to try to pick it up for between 50 and 70% of the face value of the note.
Do you want to open a comedy club, Dov?
Name the comedy seller if Noam's Pete can put it, every his model in place, and then I just become an equity partner in a specific location. And then there could be two-way value. But
well, Dov, keep an eye out. Or look at us if any of these. I feel bad because these are the ruins of people's lives. But if any of these places on Bleecker Street, any of these classic spots on Bleecker Street, which are already built as nightclubs, which is what's nice about them, they can be turned into a comedy club relatively easily. If any of them become available, let's grab it.
What was the one that you loved? That I was.
Did you have a location, Noam? That location that you were talking about was a pretty good location.
It was a great location, but it had to be built from scratch. It was going to require a big investment, and it was a big location. But there's other places on Bleecker Street now, which might become available. I don't know.
Retail. I don't know how this relates to Bleecker Street, and it's all market specific. But retail is off in Soho by 50%. I've read as much as 50% of where it was in 2019.
Wow.
So talking about really significant, decrease in the lease in where these numbers are going. It's gonna shift the neighborhood. They've also initiated a zoning change in Soho, and they're going to alter the density to allow a lot more people and people of color in affordable housing situations.
You might want to rephrase that. They're not actually changing the zoning to allow people of color.
No. But that is a part of the.
I understand, but the way you said it, like they're changing the zoning to allow people of color.
I mean, they're changing, the zoning's been that way for a long, long time. And so the density in Soho is low. And when you incentivize developers with tax incentives,
Yes.
The contract with the city is that you provide 30% affordable housing. And so it is going to alter the nature of the neighborhood. I'm saying it as though it's a good thing for a business and that the density will be higher. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Because, I mean, I don't know. New York is.
No, nobody knows.
I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I want in on this, and I'm very motivated to make money.
Oh, you want a piece of the action? I'm sure a lot of people would want a piece of the Comedy Cellar if they opened up a new location. The question is, how many partners does Noam want to take on if he does decide to go forward with it? He's already got, people that he works with. By the way, speaking of partners and the Comedy Cellar, any Vegas news? Is there any chance that the Vegas Club will open this year in 2020?
This year in 2020, I doubt it. They tell me nothing. The Rio is not opened. It's a sad story, but I try not to think about it. Thanks for asking.
Well, I thought that maybe Vegas would open. I thought maybe Vegas would open sooner than New York, so it would allow you some income or some.
There's no income. The thing about any of these rooms opening is that you're just going to lose more money as soon as they open. Until there's a vaccine, like a fly comedians out to Vegas for 25% capacity and yeah. I mean, 50% capacity. That's the funny thing. Like they think they're doing restaurants a favor by allowing them 25% capacity. It's a nightmare at 25%. Any business that's doing 25% capacity is going bankrupt quickly.
Right. I'll tell you what New York did that's seems very smart or very, very good is all the street, the sidewalk.
For people who have enough room, they might be able to make ends meet on the sidewalk, but that's a fraction of the restaurants that actually exist, and that's going away. I mean, it's already cold out, right? So.
Yeah, well, they're starting to use heat lamps, but
I mean, this tent thing is like.
And at the tent situation,
I mean, you're just bringing the inside outside. I don't see how that's any safer. You're just turning the outside into the fucking inside by putting up a tent, and then so you're all inside again, except that you're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's generally there'll be more airflow if the tents have big openings, and I really don't know. I mean,
when I was headlining. No, my headline in Philly last week, and then Connecticut before that. I just started coming back, but they're at 50% capacity now in Connecticut and Philadelphia. I don't know when New York will move to 50% capacity, but there's a lot of precedent for that seemingly being handled responsibly. I don't.
We could make a living. We could make a living on 50% capacity comedy if it's if you charge cover charge and stuff. We could if we could get 50% capacity actually coming in, then we could make some.
Right.
But it wouldn't be like half what we used to make. It would be like 20%, 15% of what we used to make, because the first half of the money
your fixed costs
to pay your bills.
Your fixed costs don't change.
Right. Well, they might change a little bit, but a little bit less payroll. Maybe the landlord will continue with the rent abatement of 50% for a while.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But it's your last dollar that you really make your big money on.
As a building owner, when I reduce somebody's lease because of COVID, my taxes don't change. 100% of my expenses remain precisely where they are. And so that's where the challenge is.
I think we can just sum this all up by saying it's not easy being Jewish. They don't understand what we go through.
It's not easy. It's not. Look at what happened to Jeffrey Toobin.
Was he thinking about money? He probably was, right?
Yeah.
All right, what else, fellas?
No, I think it's an hour.
Well, not quite. We started a little bit late. We started about 7:15, and now we're at 8:10.
No, my divorce is going pretty well.
Oh,
it's nice to here, I just wonder if this can continue. It seems too good to be true. I've never heard of a divorce going as well as Dov's divorce seems to be going.
Well, listen, knock on wood. You know, we've agreed on terms, and I still get to see my kid a lot. You know, and because we're amicable, I'm in the house with them, and yeah. I mean, I'll always miss not waking up with him in the morning, but you know.
Are you allowed to bang now?
Like a racehorse, baby.
Okay.
I can bang anything, everywhere. I can do it Tubin style if I need to. Yeah.
Is she allowed to bang?
I'm encouraging her to get on the stick again. Yes.
Oh,
Of course she's allowed. They're not a couple anymore. You know, I mean, whether that would be.
I don't know how strong Dove's pimp hand was.
No, I know what you mean. No. I for a while it was a bit nebulous, but I think right now it's I have to be mature, and I have to make the priority co-parenting, and she has to feel safe in her own life. You know?
So being a little outrageous. Of course, she's allowed. I mean, I'm being kidding about the other stuff, but what are the rules about whether she can bring a boyfriend around your son?
Well, she's not allowed to do it dog style in her house because I pay the rent. If you want to go missionary, that's going to be up to you, but it's got to be after the boy is sleeping. Listen, you know, she's going to have to be able to live her life. I mean, that being said, I'm in that house 4 days a week with my kid, and I want to be supportive, and I'm paying for it. But when I'm not there, the idea that she couldn't have anybody over after the kid goes to sleep would be draconian, and I don't want to create, enmity between us. It's not good for the kid.
But this is where the amicable divorce could become less amicable, is if she wants to move in with somebody. Then all of a sudden, you have access to your...
Yeah, it adds a wrinkle. I mean, it would also reduce my fixed costs every month, because if she moves in with someone, I'm not, I'll no longer be on the hook for a significant amount of what I'm currently on the hook for. So there's upside in that as well. But listen, we'd have to work through that. Somebody's going to have to know that's my kid, and I'm going to be going out there, and I'll be with him, 4 days a week, and the rest of the time in the city.
Dan, is this?
So what's the lesson from this? If you have like a 5-year relationship where you can barely stand each other and you have 2 good weeks, that's probably not the time to decide to get married. Is that the?
Yeah, no, that's one of the lessons. Listen, the other lesson is that, and I think is when people show you who they are, believe them, for better.
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou, yeah.
Well, it all comes back to Maya Angelou. May the cage bird sing. What was the name of that?
So what are you saying? She didn't believe you when you showed her who you were?
No. I think we both, wanted each other to change more than the other person would. And so in believing somebody when they show you who they are, in the psychological lexicon, they call it characterological, meaning these traits that are relatively immutable, they're innate. And so, just there's a give and take, and there's compromise, but nobody's going to suddenly become not the person they were 6 months ago. And you gotta, play that out. Your cost benefit should.
But at the same time, you have the kid, so you wouldn't necessarily do any. I mean, the trade-off was that you have the kid. It was a worthwhile endeavor.
It was, and I wouldn't have a kid had I not pulled that trigger. And so I don't look at the marriage simply with regret, and I'm less angry with her for not being who I needed. I'm more, the personal responsibility associated with I made the decision to continue. So if she doesn't, anyway.
What does she want you to change? How would she like you to change, you think?
Oh, I get a little upended by things, and I run hotter than she does. And I like expression and sort of the notion of, like the root word of relationship is relatability. And I want acknowledgement. I've been working on this new thing. it made me crazy. We were in Costco, and she sent me into the big walk-in refrigerator for blueberries. They have vegetables and fruit. Sends me in for blueberries. I come out, I said, there are no blueberries. She looked at me, she goes, you don't see anything, you live in your head. You don't, and then she just huffed off, walks in, comes back out. She's got a bucket of raspberries. I said, what's that? She goes, I got raspberries. We start walking with that big cart. Doesn't mention the idea that there were no fucking blueberries. No acknowledgement around the idea that I was not crazy. You understand? There were no blueberries.
So what you're saying is that she would like you to change by accepting her bullshit. That's that's kind of what you're saying. I don't think I'm not a therapist, but I don't think you're playing this game properly.
She's gonna be there to defend herself. I mean, this is like really. I've never met her, but I'm gonna.
She's wonderful
on her behalf here. You know.
She is my. You know, I've known Dov through several women, several girlfriends. And, you know, she's my favorite, but because I only know, you know, what I know.
Right. No, that's fair. I mean, but listen, the notion of somebody who's not expressive and is innately defensive, and look, there are a number of things, without getting into the psychological weeds, that make it an untenable relationship. Don't make her a bad person.
Of course.
Make her a bad person for me, and I think for anybody in the context of a romantic, sustained relationship, I think it will become a problem. I think the notion, the nature of a very defensive response system is that you're going to create a frosty environment. And, you know, her relationships have ended in such a way, I believe it's suggestive of some pathologies psychologically, and I've got my own. But those are hers.
But you are defining this in really as her being the moving part here. That she's the fulcrum. If she would change, you guys would get along fine. And it's really not about you changing.
That sounds like what my husband says. If I would just change, we would get along fine.
So you're saying that
no, don't even. I can just see you cooking up some fucking response to that.
You guys you and your husband seem to get along pretty well.
Does anybody have any comments about my new hat?
Wait, she's about to spill the beans about her husband. You and your husband seem to get along pretty well.
We don't all the time at all. I mean, maybe in front of you we do, but like, isn't that the case for most relationships?
Me and Juanita are exactly the same in front of you as we are not in front of you.
Harry,
we go head to head. I mean, you I don't know.
Periel, sounds like you're having trouble there.
Periel, is there a danger of this marriage dissolving at some point in the near future?
I mean, I hope not. I don't think so.
Is Guy here? Can he come on and join us? I'm good at couples
That would
therapy.
be a good episode to have.
I'm just saying, I think relationships are challenging, especially when, I mean, we're very different people in a way that, I think
Noam and Juanita, I think, win the prize for very different people, at least on paper. I don't know anything about your husband, but I look at Noam and Juanita and I see very different people on paper. Noam, is that fair to say?
Oh, yes.
No, very different people that happen to, but very different people in a way that somehow works. I mean, you can be very different in a symbiotic way, in a complementary way, right? I mean,
we've also been together for like 30 years.
Who has?
No, Noam and
Listen,
Juanita.
my wife, it went all when you strip everything else away. My wife is just a very nice, decent person, and that is the basis of the relationship. She never takes advantage of anybody. She doesn't lie. She has no guile. She's never scheming or whatever it is. That's why, like when we went through this Louis thing, it was so easy. You know, she was like, well, go do what you have to do, no problem. So that's I mean, I see other relationships. She doesn't really care about money. She doesn't like it. She's very chill in those ways. In other things, we fight. We don't get along, to tell you the truth, in other aspects. But that core principle that we're both, I think, nice, decent people. I think I am too, but she definitely is. That's why I think it works.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
irregardless, and I know that's not a word, but I like to use it, irregardless of your differences.
Well, that is a word, Dan.
Well, they say it's not a word. I mean,
Look it up. IRR. I think it is a word because I looked it up. I don't use it. I just say regardless, but I'm going to look it up right now.
well, it is a word. The question is if it's considered a word that is standard English.
Yeah.
It's non-standard. It's like, gonna is a word, or ain't is a word, A-I-N-T.
You know what, Dan? I stand corrected. It says right here, non-standard. It says it right there.
Not standard.
Non-standard.
What I'm trying to say is
That's what they used to say about oral sex. So.
what I'm trying to say is I think that there's something, I understand what Dov is saying in the sense that in the way that you relate to each other, that can be problematic. I mean, I think that I experience that with my husband. I think he experiences that with me too.
Oh, you know what? And but as you're saying that, no, I heard Eric Weinstein use a phrase, and he called the challenge he had talking to someone he was interviewing as having profoundly different inference patterns. And the core similarity thing, I think, resonates with me insofar as there is a kind of that core compatibility. But when you have profoundly different inference patterns with another human being, it requires so much more work to find the center of the thing. And I think
define what an inference pattern is. I'm not sure I know what it is.
What's that now?
I'm not sure I understand what an inference pattern is. I mean, I think I can infer what it might be, but go ahead.
Of course, no, but the notion of inference.
But I'm sure Periel would infer something quite different. So you better explain it to us.
Right, of course. So I remember beeping the horn with her. We were in Hawaii, and some guy's falling asleep at a green light, and she would jump, as though she experienced some significant liability there. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And then she goes, "Why do you have an attitude?" And so our inference, our experience of what is happening is almost two alternate realities. And there isn't enough core compatibility. And so if you're talking to somebody politically, Noam, and you're using the word, hypocritical, their inference pattern, if they have never experienced any intelligent, reasonable, centrist, conservative philosophy, is always that the hypocritical, it's the light going off is in an area that it may not be going off for you. It's almost like the ability to sit down at the cellar and debate somebody. Somebody talks with their hands. For my wife, that was a threat. For another person, it's just communication. The inference of the word or experience is massively different. And that's what I mean by inference patterns. I have it when I go to California.
By the way, I Googled, this is unrelated, I Googled woman masturbating Zoom accidental to see if there's been any verified cases. And I see a headline, teacher accidentally streams masturbating on Zoom, but it's Pornhub. And it's, it's not real. So in any case.
So Periel, what do you put the odds of your marriage staying together 10 more years?
I mean, let's hope high, right?
Wow,
Let's get through COVID first.
My wife would say, there's no fucking way he's going anywhere. That's what my wife would say.
Right, that's true. That is, I can say that there might be a chance that he's going somewhere. I'm not sure where he's going, but he might be going somewhere.
Well, we wish you luck, Periel, although I'll tell you, I without mentioning any names, there's more than a few fellas that have remarked to me that you are desirable and attractive.
Periel is a desirable woman, and
so regardless what happens, you will have options.
Thank you. I really appreciate that vote of confidence.
That's what I hear things,
And that vote of confidence has been communicated by somebody that looks like just fell off a Naughty by Nature album cover.
This is my new, as you may or may not know, but tomorrow is my birthday. Unfortunately, I won't celebrate it as I often do at the Comedy Cellar with a cake. And they will often bring a cake in if I'm.
I didn't know it was your birthday. I don't keep track of anybody's birthday.
Tomorrow. So that my sister got me this hat. So you will not say anything negative.
I certainly won't. I think the hat looks great.
Dan, what are you doing for your birthday?
Pom on it. I have a family dinner tomorrow night, and That's all.
How
That's
do you
all.
how do you do something like that outside?
Yeah, it'll likely be outside or social distance inside, weather permitting. I don't know. Tomorrow, actually, it looks like rain.
What's social distance inside? What does that mean?
Well, that means that they have, 25% capacity. They have less capacity than they normally would, which is what the restaurants are doing anyway.
On an emotional level, Dan's been practicing social distancing for around 5 decades.
About 5 decades now. Yeah.
Perry, I'm sorry to hear your relationship's falling apart. I'm really.
I didn't say it was
It's falling
falling
apart. I think
apart.
I think you did.
No, I did not.
that it is not perfect, and that the prognosis is cautiously optimistic.
I said, thank you, Dan. I said that we butt heads sometimes, is I think what I said, from which you extrapolated that I was like filing for divorce tomorrow.
All right.
Well, I think he's looking, misery loves company. Now, I think Noam, because he's not in a happy place right now, perhaps he wishes you the same.
My inference pattern.
Oh, look.
I caught my kid standing under a picnic table umbrella for about 6 minutes.
Masturbating.
Yeah. He was laying down a tubing.
That's an adorable picture. I assume it got some social media traction. Did you put it on Instagram? I don't know. I mean, I know you're not, necessarily big on that.
You put 2 words together there, Dan. It was interesting. It's interesting how the brain works. You could have said social media traction or social media attention, and you said social media attraction.
Traction. I said traction, not.
Oh, you said traction? I thought you said attraction.
No, not attraction.
Sorry, I stand corrected.
Dan, why did you put Dove's penis on our notes of?
Because I sent Periel and Dove a list of possible topics, and the last topic was Dove's penis. It's called a joke, Periel. Obviously, we're not going to discuss Dove's penis. We've already discussed it.
Yeah, disgusting.
Listen to Periel. She's like, it's not that I want to talk about it. I'm just wondering, Dan, why did you put that on the list? Like, not that I'm interested in talking about it, and really not that at all. I just curious why you put it on the list, Dan.
Discussed it ad nauseum. It's an impressive enough piece of equipment, but there's really not much more to say about it than that.
But it is interesting thinking about going back out into the dating world and how to navigate all of that in the age of COVID. I mean, I for the first time when I was headlining in Philly, it was the first time I actually talked to women at relatively close range that had been in the audience, and what do? You test everybody. I mean, you gotta.
But what did you do is the question.
He fucked both of them.
Well, yeah, a guy's got to, you got to buy your ticket and take your ride. I mean,
no, that's insane. You cannot be going into
no, I didn't bang
proximity with. No, that's not good.
I think it's safest to be a bottom and get a reach around. I think that's really the
yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
You've got to.
Unfortunately, this heterosexual thing is really jamming me up. Yeah.
It's our time has passed.
All right. Oh, it's 8:30.
No, I meant for heterosexuals.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, okay, so we'll leave the audience with that, I suppose.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Well, tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
And everybody says happy birthday on Facebook, and I get hundreds of birthday messages. I feel good about myself. But then the very next day it's Ray Allen's birthday, and he gets the same amount of attention. It's like everybody's getting the same. Everybody's getting 100. Everybody's getting attention on their birthday. So I don't know. It's not just me.
Why don't we? You should tell Ray. Let's get together at the cellar and we'll get a red wine.
Okay, well maybe Thursday. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean I'm saying if Ray, tell Ray to come. We can sit outside and socially distance. You can have a safe wine.
All right, I'll let him know. And his is on the 21st. His is a day after mine. A year and a day. He was born a year and a day after me.
Celebration to two men having been born many years ago.
Mine is on the 27th.
Oh, really? Wow, we got a lot of October babies.
Of October.
So you're a Scorpion?
Emerson Davidoff is on November 2nd. There's a lot of birthdays coming.
My niece is November 1st.
There you go. Yeah.
So there's a lot to celebrate in the coming months. Anyway,
My niece is April 20th.
Shut up. Nuh-uh. Seriously?
Yeah. That's Hitler's birthday. Yeah, she is.
it's also April 20th. I think is the day Abe Lincoln died. Is it not?
I don't know.
Or maybe it was April 15th, because the Titanic was the 15th, I believe, or the 12th. Hold on a second. The Titanic was the April 15th, and Lincoln was shot. Lincoln death was April 14th. He was shot. I think he died on the 15th. He did. He died on the 15th.
All right.
So and Hitler's birthday was the 20th. So a lot going on in April. Anyhow, that's it.
And by the way, just for the record, not that I usually I wouldn't say this, but I've actually meant it. I was trying to tease Periel about this point about, because she always talks about gender being whatever, gender and sex and all that stuff. But I do feel bad that I said regular women. I didn't mean that.
This is ladies and gentlemen, for our final segment of the show. It's the weekly segment called Walk Back with Noam Dworman.
No, I mean, sometimes I edit these things out, but I'm not going to edit this out. But I just really didn't mean that. I was just trying to point out to Periel that she contradicted herself about something.
Noam's heart has always been the right place. He can do no wrong. Noam Dworman, 2024, President of the United States.
Periel is of the mind that that not only is she want trans people to have a life and not be discriminated against and all that. I think which most decent people do and want to be treated with respect. She goes this extra step of saying like a trans female competing against a cis whatever the terminology female is like why what's the big deal about that? Like even though the trans female she laps everyone else in the high school.
First of all,
and she was like, well, you're even to talk, like, why are you even mentioning that? Like, you're such a
Neanderthal. That's not a fucking issue. The issue is that, like, trans women of color have, like, the highest murder rate of, like, any group.
We've been through this. First of all, the unfortunate statistic about that, if you want to bring that up, is that, like, in all these crimes, they're usually killed by people like themselves.
But who gives a shit about this sport thing? And most people do not want trans women to have safe, nice, healthy lives. That's not true.
I think most people do.
I don't.
You said most decent people. So whatever percentage of people you think are decent,
right?
Which I think are the majority. It may not be the.
I mean, the conservative Supreme Court of the United States read trans rights into a gender bill a couple months ago. This is the right-wing people. Did that. I mean, come on. But on the other hand, just like you understand the inherent logic in not having 200-pound people competing in lightweight boxing divisions. No, I'm serious. Like there is something we have to think about and saying, well, having somebody who had a testosterone bath for 20 years competing against females. I mean, it's
not an issue I feel passionately about like taking up.
Well, right, because you don't want to, because you're intimidated by political correctness, so you will always buckle and say the emperor is dressed. That's just the way you are.
Intimidated by political correctness. I just don't give a shit about that issue.
That is such a typical, obfuscation that people do. Why? What about this? I don't care about that. Okay, that's not the point whether you care about it or not. But what about it? Like my law professor asked me a tough question. I never said to him, Professor, I don't care about that. You have to answer. You have to answer the question. You can't just embrace half the logic and the parts that's inconvenient decide not to care about. That's not argumentation.
Noam Dworman, 2024, guys. I gotta run. I gotta be crossed down.
Okay. Podcast@comedyseller.com for comments, suggestions, queries, compliments, criticisms.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.
And you can follow us on Instagram @Live from the Table and listen to this wherever you get your podcasts or watch it on the Comedy Sellers channel on YouTube.